Hello, and thanks for joining us. We have an interview coming up with Ron Thomas, a 95 alumnus and the preacher for the Sunrush Church of Christ in Chillicothe, Ohio.
Hello, and thanks for joining Southeast Speaks, a work of the Southeast Institute of Biblical Studies. Once a week, we meet with students, faculty, alumni, and friends who support the work of training gospel preachers. Enjoy today's discussion, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Southeast Speaks. I am here with Ron Thomas. He is a 1995 graduate of the East Tennessee School of Preaching and Missions. David Farr was the director at the time and doing a very good job. But Ron is the preacher here at the Sunrush Church of Christ in Chillicothe, Ohio. And so we want to say welcome to Ron, and we're going to ask him a few questions. So, Ron, tell us a little bit about your work here in Chillicothe.
My wife and I had arrived in Chillicothe from Illinois. We were 18 years in Illinois. Before that, we were in Idaho, and we've been 4.5 years here in Chillicothe. And so I serve as an elder, I serve as a preacher, and our work here, as far as I am concerned, is going very well. And a good way to measure that is how people respond to you, and if there are any kind of problems that are left open, wounds, you might say. And insofar as I can tell, things are as they are desired to be.
Well, that's very good. That's very good. And tell us a little bit about your family, too.
I've been married for 37 years. My wife, her name is Ann. We met in college, in Bluffton College in Bluffton, Ohio, and met in 1980, married in 1983, have 2 daughters. Both of them live in Columbus, have 1 son-in-law, 3 grandchildren, a 4th one on the way, and I'm just a happy grandfather.
Fantastic. And you also were in the Air Force, is that correct?
Was in the Air Force for 10 years, 1 month shy of 11 years, from 1982 to the last month of 1992. Served in locations, Saudi Arabia for 3 months, just after Desert Storm. Lived on the island of Guam, Idaho, New Mexico, Texas, and I think that's it, apart from temporary duty stations.
Okay. And you've kind of had a little bit of a traveled preaching career. In other words, can you tell us a little bit about all the different places that you've preached?
Preached in Idaho, 2 different stints, cumulative 10 years, Illinois 18 years, Ohio 4 years, and then intermittent preaching assignment, lectureships, etc. in Alabama, West Virginia, Tennessee, Michigan. There may have been a place or 2 otherwise, but
Okay.
pretty small.
And I'm correct that you're a big Michigan State fan, right?
You just want to be disfellowshipped.
Ron is a big Ohio State fan. He grew up in Ohio, and so he's never given that up.
All I wanted to say, you have an uncanny appearance, a resemblance to Tom Brady.
Oh, do I? Well, thank you. So everybody who's a New England Patriots fan or now a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan is probably going to enjoy this now, and everybody who hates them is not going to tune into our podcast. All thanks to Ron Thomas. What would you say is one of the, or you can even name a few, but what are some of the biggest differences, say, between preaching out in Idaho and preaching here in Ohio?
One of the advantages of living in Idaho and really living here in Chillicothe is a similarity in rural mindset. In Idaho, there was this approach to life is you just simply do what you have to do regardless of distance, regardless of circumstances.
Like how far would some of the members of the church have to drive just to attend worship?
Apart from the local community, they would drive as far as an hour.
Wow.
And sometimes 90 minutes. Not often, but sometimes 90 minutes. And when there were sister congregations who had a meeting, at least as far as the Thomases are concerned, we went.
Right.
And
so you'd drive an hour or 2 maybe just to attend a gospel meeting somewhere because that was the next closest congregation.
Yes, sir. And I am a strong believer in supporting sister congregations because it seems like there are so few that do.
Right. Well, it can be a really big encouragement
Yeah.
when you have other congregations that come to your meetings
Yeah,
and things
right.
like that. Moving to Southeast Institute of Biblical Studies, or East Tennessee School of Preaching and Mission. What were some of the good blessings that came from going through school when the second best Southeast director was at the helm? And I'm just teasing. David Farr could far outshine me, but and does still.
I like the way you said that. David Farr can far outside.
Yeah, oh, there you go. Yeah, see, I made a pun and didn't even know it.
The blessing of the East Tennessee School of Preaching, or the Southeast Institute of Biblical Studies, as it is now, is associated with the men, the staff. At lunchtime, for instance, there were a number of us that would gather in the old building auditorium, which then turned into a fellowship hall, or whatever other word might be used. And we just sat around the table and we just talked about nothing of consequence and just enjoyed that. And talked about family, talked about weather, talked about sports, talked about politics, talked about nothing. And then you had the staff and the emphasis they placed upon, in my view, a very important emphasis upon what does the Bible say. Now, there's nothing that's unusual about that in relationship to the school,
Right.
but I find it to be overly important. I believe I excelled when it came to the textual studies of the Bible, but I didn't do so well in some of the other areas that I would call peripheral. Necessary, but peripheral. And but the men that I worked with or associated with and learned with, we were from our own backgrounds that were not necessarily uniform. Made it good.
Well, at this point, we're going to pause for just a brief moment for this special announcement. Hello, my name is Will Hanstein, and I'm the Executive Director of the Southeast Institute of Biblical Studies in Knoxville, Tennessee. In Matthew chapter 9, verses 37 and 38, Jesus says, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Therefore beseech the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest." In these two verses, Jesus communicates a very important concept to us. The problem is not with the amount of people who would be willing to obey the gospel. The problem is with the amount of people who would be willing to go and teach the gospel to them. So let me ask you a very important question. Have you considered becoming a gospel preacher? Here at Southeast, we have a no-cost, in-depth program of Bible study where you will learn how to communicate the gospel more effectively. At the end of your 2 years here, you will be awarded with a Bachelor of Biblical Studies degree, and we will help you find a sound congregation with which you can work. So let me ask you again, not have you considered becoming a gospel preacher, but would you consider becoming a gospel preacher? If so, visit our website at makingpreachers.com and fill out an application there. Come to Southeast, where preachers are made. And we're back with Ron Thomas, the preacher and an elder at the Sunrush Church of Christ in Chillicothe, Ohio. What did you like the most about East Tennessee when you graduated? What's the one memory or the one advantage that you felt it gave you?
What the school did for me after the fact, again, I was self-taught, I'd already had disciplined myself, is just perpetuated it. I just stayed structurally sound with regard to how I would approach it. So, for instance, as you know, I'm up early, and so I'm in the office early, but I try to spend at least 6 hours a day in the office. Do a lot of visiting, do a lot of social media interacting, and for the benefit of trying to promote the cause. You know, when I was in school, I did not like English grammar at all. And then I went to Knoxville and was compelled to take it. Oh, I fared all right under it. I didn't do all that great, probably. Charles Brown was a teacher. And it was very beneficial to me, but I learned that after.
Now, and I'm assuming you would, but why would you encourage others to attend preaching school?
Well, your assumption would be correct because it sets forth not only a base of knowledge, if one doesn't have it already, but it structures their life. It disciplines them. And if they're not disciplined, they're going to have much difficulty.
We're about at 1 year since the country really as a whole started dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. And so you're both an elder here at Sunrush and the preacher. What did you guys do? Take us all the way back to mid-March or whatever, whenever this all started for you all. What did you do initially to deal with the coronavirus? A lot of churches, shut down and went to online only or whatever. Some churches just kept right on meeting the whole time. What did you all do?
We made adjustments, and that adjustment amounted to we will meet Sunday morning. So we did not discontinue Sunday morning, but we did discontinue our Bible classes because we had some teachers who were a little bit concerned with regard to the COVID-19. Then we resumed full throttle, if you will. I don't remember the day, but after something of a couple, 3-4 months maybe, we met every week. But after a couple, 3-4 months, we thought we would resume with full throttle Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday. Then we got a scare. A couple within had got themselves sick, not as a result of attendance, but in other circumstances, so we decided to pull back again. We're in the midst of that pullback.
What one blessing or advantage does Southeast, used to be East Tennessee, what one blessing or advantage does it have now based on your knowledge of the school? What does it have going for it? Why should somebody go there?
Loyalty to the Lord in the Scripture, I think, is paramount. Mm-hmm. Men who are dedicated to instilling in others who have a desire that same philosophy, and the emphasis placed upon educating and shaping the spouses and families. One of the things that Ann would say, my wife, when she was at school, is she gained the most from Peggy Farr.
Okay.
And she gained a lot from a number of teachers, but she gained a lot from Peggy Farr. And one of the things that Ann liked was Peggy was personable and plain spoken.
Right.
That meant everything. So when Ann went into local ministry with me, because she does,
sure,
she at least had a better point of reference. So I think the advantage that East Tennessee Southeast has is a loyalty to the Lord's way. And everything else from there simply adds to it.
Right. Is Southeast a school that you would heartily recommend? Is Southeast a school that you would encourage other alumni to be behind? And if so, why?
It is a school that I would heartily recommend. My wife and I support it on a monthly basis. It's not a lot, but we support it on a monthly basis. And I do believe.
What does your license plate say on your car?
Yeah, that's a good segue. The license plate says ETSOP.
Which is East Tennessee School of Preaching, which is its former name. That's the name.
Yeah, so I do believe in the school. I believe in the school a lot. But the school is made up of people. And I believe in the people. And what would I say to any prospective student who wanted to go to Southeast Institute of Biblical Studies, as two of them from here are entertaining the thought of? Go. Just be fully prepared for what you are entertaining. But you will benefit a great deal from it because of the loyalty that the school has to the Scripture.
Well, it seems to me that you've even taken, as an alumnus, an active role in recruiting and even funding the school, which has certainly been a blessing to us. What a lot of alumni don't realize is that they're our best recruiters. And they're also our best fundraisers in a lot of ways because they preach for churches and know individuals. The more people believe in the school, the more the alumni believe in the school, the more the Lord's work can be done.
I am what I am today, good or bad, because of all that learning. Not book learning, but human learning.
Well, very good. Well, Ron, I appreciate you taking the time to let us ask you a few questions and have a office side chat or bookshelf side chat, I guess, and really appreciate the work you're doing here. Really appreciate your support of the school, the encouragement of our mission. You really are a blessing to us, and thank you for taking the time with us.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to have you here with us. Thank you very much for the opportunity to interact at this level, and we're made better because of your presence.
Well, thank you.
Thanks again for joining us today on Southeast Speaks, and we hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, be sure to like, share, and why not subscribe so you can get notified when we have interviews with students, faculty, alumni, and supporters of Southeast. Thank you, and have a blessed day.